bombshell after the parade. New York had not even finished celebrating before the next earthquake hit the NBA. The confetti was still falling. The city was still screaming. Madison Square Garden was still glowing like the center of the basketball universe. After 53 years of heartbreak, failure, false hope, and endless jokes, the New York Knicks were finally champions again. Jalen Brunson had just dragged an entire franchise out of basketball darkness. The Larry O'Brien Trophy was back in New York. And then, suddenly, one name changed everything. Kevin Durant. Not next season. Not someday. Right now, because while Knicks fans were celebrating a championship, people around the league were already asking a dangerous question. What if the champions are not finished? What if New York is not trying to enjoy one title, but build something much bigger? What if Kevin Durant becomes the final piece that turns the Knicks from a great story into a dynasty? That is why this story feels bigger than a normal trade rumor. This is not about a desperate team chasing a superstar to save its season. This is about a champion looking across the NBA and saying, we can still get stronger. And that should terrify the rest of the league. Durant's situation in Houston is no longer clean. The Rockets were supposed to be his final stop, the place where he could compete, mentor young stars, and close his career with control. But after injuries, playoff disappointment, uncomfortable headlines, and growing questions about his future, the mood has changed. When a superstar like Durant starts looking restless, the entire NBA pays attention. Now place that next to the Knicks. A team with Brunson in his prime. A city starving for more. A front office that has already proven it is willing to make bold moves. A roster that just won the title, but still knows how hard it is to stay on top. That is the real drama. Do the Knicks protect what they already built, or do they take one more massive swing and bring Kevin Durant to Madison Square Garden? Before we go deeper, tell me where you are watching from. If you think Durant should join the Knicks, comment 1. If you think New York should keep the championship roster untouched, comment 2. And if you want more NBA stories like this, subscribe to the channel right now. The city that refused to die. For more than half a century, New York waited for this night. The Knicks were not just chasing a trophy. They were chasing respect, identity, and the chance to erase decades of disappointment. Every season started with hope. Every season ended with excuses, bad contracts, failed rebuilds, painful playoff exits, and the same question from the rest of the NBA. When will New York finally matter again? Then Jalen Brunson changed everything. He did not arrive like the loudest superstar in the league. He did not need drama, noise, or endless headlines. He simply worked. Possession after possession, fourth quarter after fourth quarter, he became the heartbeat of a city that had almost forgotten what real belief felt like. In the finals, the Knicks were not perfect. That is what made them dangerous. They fell behind, they got punched first. They watched San Antonio build double-digit leads and force them into uncomfortable moments. But every time the Spurs looked ready to take control, New York answered with toughness. That was the identity of this championship team. Not pretty, not easy, not soft. Brunson scored like a superstar, but he led like something bigger. Karl Anthony Towns gave them size and skill. OG Anunoby gave them defense and strength. Mikal Bridges gave them balance, patience, and winning habits. Around them, New York built a roster that did not panic when the game got ugly. And that is why this championship mattered so much. It was not a fluke. It was not one lucky run. It was proof that the Knicks had finally built a real foundation, but winning a title creates a new problem. Once you reach the top, everyone starts hunting you. Every weakness gets studied. Every mistake gets punished. Every rival spends the summer asking one question: how do we beat New York? That is why the Durant conversation is so dangerous. The Knicks already proved they can win without him. But if they add him, they are no longer just defending champion. They become the team nobody wants to see in May or June. The Houston dream starts cracking. Houston was supposed to be the quiet ending. Kevin Durant was not supposed to be part of another chaotic NBA storyline. When he landed with the Rockets, the idea sounded almost perfect. A respected coach, a young roster, a city with basketball hunger, a chance for Durant to compete without carrying every emotional burden by himself. On paper, it made sense. Houston had young talent. They had energy. They had defenders. They had a system. Durant could slide in as the veteran superstar, score efficiently, guide the next generation, and maybe push the Rockets into real Western Conference danger. But the NBA has never played on paper. The season became heavier than expected. The Rockets had moments where they looked dangerous, but they never looked complete. Durant still produced numbers that most players would dream of, but the feeling around the team slowly changed. When Houston needed clarity, it got questions. When the playoffs arrived, The pressure only grew. Then came the uncomfortable signs. Injuries kept Durant out of key moments. His absence from certain team situations became a talking point. Reports and speculation around locker room tension gave the story more fuel. Fans started asking whether Durant was truly committed to Houston or whether this was just another stop in a long, complicated career. That is the problem with Durant's legacy. His talent is never questioned. His commitment to any one place always is. Every time things get difficult, people remember Oklahoma City. They remember Golden State. They remember Brooklyn. They remember Phoenix. And now Houston risks becoming another chapter in the same pattern. But this time feels different. Durant is older now. He does not have endless prime years left. Every move matters more. Every decision carries more weight. If he leaves Houston, it cannot just be another escape. It has to mean something. That is why New York is so tempting. The Knicks do not need him to save them. They need him to complete them. Why the Knicks walked away before. The Knicks could have chased Kevin Durant earlier. That is the part people forget. New York had interest. The connection was not random. This was not some fake rumor created by fans who wanted to dream at midnight. The Knicks had looked at Durant before. They understood what he could bring. They knew that even in his late 30s, he remained one of the most skilled scorers basketball has ever seen. But they also knew the price. And that price was dangerous. To get Durant before the championship, New York would have needed to break apart pieces of the roster that were still learning how to win together. That meant risking chemistry. It meant moving valuable players. It meant gambling with a team that had not yet proven what it could become. So the Knicks did something mature. They waited. That decision may have saved their season. Instead of chasing the biggest name, they trusted the group in the locker room. They trusted Brunson. They trusted Towns. They trusted Anunoby. They trusted Bridges. They trusted the slow, difficult process of becoming a real team. And then that team won the championship. Now everything looks different. Before, trading for Durant could have looked desperate. Now, it could look strategic. Before, it might have felt like New York was begging for relevance. Now, it feels like a champion choosing its final weapon. That is a very different position. The Knicks no longer have to ask Durant to make them legitimate. They already are. The trophy proves it. The city knows it. The league fears it. So if New York calls Houston again, the conversation changes completely. They are not saying, please help us win. They are saying, come help us keep winning. That pitch is powerful because it protects Durant's ego and his legacy. He would not be joining a broken team. He would not be asked to rescue a franchise. He would be joining a champion with a real structure, a clear leader, and a fan base ready to explode every night. That is exactly the kind of stage Durant has always understood. From champions to dynasty. Winning one championship changes a franchise. Winning two changes history. That is the line the Knicks are staring at right now. One title gave New York relief. It ended the jokes. It rewarded the fans. It made Brunson immortal in the city forever. But one title does not create a dynasty. One title can still be called a magical run. One title can still be chased down by hungrier teams the next season. A dynasty requires another level of ambition. That is where Kevin Durant enters the picture. The Knicks already have the foundation. Brunson is the emotional center. Towns gives them offensive versatility. Anunoby gives them physical defense. Bridges gives them two-way reliability. The bench gives them survival. The coach gives them structure. But Durant gives them fear. Not regular fear, championship fear. The kind of fear where defenses cannot load up on Brunson anymore. The kind of fear where a bad offensive possession can still end with Durant rising over a defender like the contest does not exist. The kind of fear where playoff opponents know that even if they solve the first action, the second option might be one of the greatest scorers in basketball history. That is what dynasties are built on. Not just talent, but impossible choices. Do you double Brunson and leave Durant with space? Do you send help at Durant and let Brunson attack downhill? Do you put your best defender on KD and let Bridges punish weaker matchups? Do you go small and risk Towns? Do you go big and risk getting picked apart? The Knicks without Durant are already dangerous. The Knicks with Durant become a puzzle with no clean answer, but the risk is real. Durant is not young. His contract is heavy. His history brings attention. His presence could change the balance inside the locker room. And that is why New York cannot approach this like a fantasy basketball move. They must ask the hard question. Does Kevin Durant fit the culture, or does his name become bigger than the team? Because the Knicks did not win by acting like a collection of celebrities. They won by becoming connected. If Durant joins that connection, the league is in trouble. If he disrupts it, New York could regret touching something that was already beautiful. The truth about Durant. At 37, Kevin Durant at 37 is still not normal. Most players at that age are surviving. Durant is still shaping defenses. Most players lose their rhythm, their lift, their confidence, or their ability to create separation. Durant still walks into a half-court possession and gives the defense a terrible choice. Back up, and he shoots. Crowd him and he rises over you. Send help, and he finds the open man. That is why teams still want him, not because of nostalgia, not because of his name, because the skill is still real. Durant's game has aged better than almost anyone expected because it was never built only on explosion. It was built on length, touch, timing, and impossible shot making. He does not need to be the fastest player on the floor to control a game. He only needs a little space, and sometimes not even that. For the Knicks, that mattered. Brunson carried too much offensive pressure during the title run. He handled it brilliantly, but history tells us that repeating that burden is dangerous. Playoff defenses adjust, bodies wear down. One superstar can win a championship, but two elite shot creators make survival much easier. Durant would give Brunson oxygen. He would give the Knicks a calm answer when the offense stalls. He would give New York a player who has taken the biggest shots on the biggest stages and lived with the results. That kind of experience cannot be faked, but the concerns cannot be ignored. Age matters, health matters, chemistry matters. Durant's presence brings cameras, debates, and pressure. Every missed game becomes a headline. Every quiet moment becomes speculation. Every bad loss becomes a national conversation about whether the Knicks made a mistake. That is the cost of superstar business. The Knicks have to decide whether Durant's talent is worth the storm that follows him. And maybe the answer is yes. Because championship windows are fragile. Brunson is in his prime now. The city is alive now. The roster is expensive now. The East will not wait for New York to feel comfortable. Sometimes the boldest move is also the necessary one. Brunson and Durant would be a nightmare. Imagine the final 2 minutes of a playoff game at Madison Square Garden. The crowd is standing. The defense is tired. The Knicks are down by 1. Brunson brings the ball across half court, calm as ever, eyes scanning the floor. Durant is on the wing, guarded tightly, but still somehow looking open because his release point is impossible to reach. The defense has to choose. That is the nightmare. Before Durant, opponents could build their entire plan around wearing down Brunson. Trap him, bump him, force the ball out of his hands, make someone else beat you. It did not always work, but at least it gave defenses a clear target. With Durant, that plan becomes dangerous. If Brunson gives up the ball, he is not passing to a role player who needs perfect conditions. He is passing to Kevin Durant, a player who can score from the elbow, the wing, the post, the top of the key, or anywhere inside the arc. A player who does not need rhythm the way other scorers do. A player who can be quiet for 3 quarters and still decide the final 90 seconds. That changes everything. Brunson's toughness and footwork create pressure at the point of attack. Durant's height and shooting create pressure above the defense. Together, they would force opponents into constant panic. And behind them, the Knicks still have size, defense, and depth. This is not just about adding points. It is about changing the emotional weight of every possession. When a team has one closer, the opponent believes there is a way out. When a team has 2, the opponent starts hoping someone simply misses. That is not defense. That is survival. And survival is not enough against champions. The biggest question is whether Durant would accept the role New York needs him to play. This is Brunson's team now. That cannot change. The city belongs to Brunson because he earned it. If Durant arrives trying to take over the story, tension could grow quickly. But if Durant arrives ready to enhance the story, not own it, this could be special. He does not need to become the face of the Knicks. He only needs to become the piece that makes the face of the Knicks impossible to stop. What Houston has to decide, Houston has a decision to make, and it is not simple. Trading Kevin Durant after 1 season would look like failure. It would tell the league that the big experiment did not work. It would force the Rockets to admit that the final chapter they sold to fans was not really final at all. But keeping him could be risky too. If Durant is not fully committed, Houston cannot pretend forever. Young teams need clarity. They need leadership that points in one direction. They need veterans who stabilize the room, not storylines that create daily question. That is why the Knicks become such an interesting trade partner. New York has pieces. New York has motivation. New York has a championship roster that could send Houston useful players instead of just empty salad. If the Rockets decide to move Durant, they will not want to look weak. They will want flexibility, value, and a path forward. The Knicks may be able to offer that, but New York must be careful. Houston will not give Durant away for free. Even at 37, his name carries weight, his production carries value, his presence can change a playoff race overnight. The Rockets know that if Durant becomes available, multiple teams will call. That creates a bidding war, and bidding wars are dangerous for champions. The Knicks cannot allow emotion to make them reckless. They waited 53 years to get back to the top. They cannot throw away depth, defense, and chemistry just because the biggest name on the market becomes available. The right trade could make them stronger. The wrong trade could make them famous and weaker at the same time. That is the thin line every great front office has to walk. Fans want fireworks, headlines want drama, talk shows want chaos. But championships are built through discipline. Leon Rose and the Knicks front office have already shown patience once. They walked away when the price was too high. That decision helped deliver a title. Now they must prove they can be bold without becoming careless. Because if they can land Durant while protecting the soul of the roster, New York might not just win the trade. They might win the next era. Durant's legacy is on the line. Kevin Durant does not just need another team. He needs the right ending. That is the part that makes this story feel personal. Durant's career is already great. Nobody can erase the scoring titles. Nobody can erase the finals moments. Nobody can erase the rings, the MVP, the Olympic greatness, or the fact that he is one of the most gifted offensive players basketball has ever seen. But legacy is not only about numbers. It is about how people remember the journey. And Durant's journey has always been complicated. Some fans see him as a basketball genius who simply made the best choices for his career. Others see him as a superstar who kept searching for the perfect situation instead of building one place into home. That word follows him everywhere. Restless. Fair or not, it has become part of the conversation. That is why New York could be the most important decision of his late career. If Durant goes to the Knicks and it fails, critics will say it was another short stop. Another attempt to attach himself to a winning situation, another chapter that ended with questions. But if it works, everything changes. If Durant joins Brunson, respects the culture, embraces the city, and helps the Knicks win again, the story becomes different. Suddenly, he is not the restless superstar moving from team to team. He becomes the veteran legend who helped turn New York into basketball's center of gravity again. That would matter. Madison Square Garden is not just another arena. New York is not just another market. Winning there carries a different weight because losing there has always been so loud. Durant knows this. Every superstar knows this. The opportunity is massive, but so is the pressure. New York will not quietly accept excuses. Knicks fans waited too long to watch anyone treat this moment casually. If Durant comes, he has to understand what he is joining. This is not a retirement tour. This is not a brand move. This is not a soft landing. This is a championship fight. And if Durant still wants one last great basketball chapter, New York might be the loudest, hardest, most rewarding place to write it. The choice that could shape the NBA, the Knicks are standing in the most dangerous place in sports. They are champions. That sounds like comfort, but it is not. Being champion means every decision gets harder. Every move is judged against the trophy. Every risk feels bigger because now there is something precious to lose. The Knicks are no longer chasing respect. They already have it. They are no longer begging the NBA to take them seriously. They force the league to watch them lift the trophy. And that is exactly why the Kevin Durant question matters so much. Durant is not just a trade target. He is a test of ambition, a test of patience, a test of whether New York understands the difference between chasing headlines and building history. The safe choice is simple. Keep the roster together. Trust the players who delivered the championship. Let Brunson lead. Let Towns, Anunoby, Bridges, and the rest of the group defend what they earned. There is honor in that. There is wisdom in protecting chemistry. Fans sometimes forget that a locker room is not a video game. You cannot just add a superstar and assume everything stays the same. But the bold choice is louder. Add Durant. Give Brunson another elite creator. Force the rest of the league to deal with a champion that somehow got more dangerous. Try to become the team that ends this era of short title runs and brings dynasty talk back to the NBA. Both paths carry risk. Standing still can be dangerous because the league adapts quickly. Every opponent will study the Knicks' weaknesses. Every coach will build a plan to slow Brunson. Every contender will spend the summer searching for answers. But moving too aggressively can be dangerous too, because chemistry is fragile. One wrong trade can take a connected team and turn it into a group of names trying to remember why it worked before. That is the lesson here. Great organizations do not make moves because they are afraid. They make moves because they are clear. If Durant fits the Knicks' identity, he could help create something unforgettable. If he accepts Brunson as the leader, respects the culture, and plays within the team's heartbeat, New York could become the most terrifying team in basketball. But if Durant does not fit, the Knicks must have the courage to walk away again. Because basketball is not only about talent, it is about trust. It is about sacrifice. It is about great players accepting the role that helps the team, not just the role that protects their image. It is about understanding that championships are never built by one name alone. Brunson proved that leadership can be quiet and powerful. The Knicks proved that a city can wait, suffer, believe, and rise again. Durant now has a chance to prove that the final chapter of a legendary career can be about more than movement. It can be about meaning, and maybe that is the human side of this whole story. Every great player eventually reaches a moment where the question changes. It is no longer just, can I still dominate? It becomes, what do I want people to remember? Durant has already proven he can score. He has already proven he can win. But New York offers something different. It offers pressure, yes. It offers criticism, absolutely. But it also offers a stage where one final sacrifice could turn into one final masterpiece. For the Knicks, the advice is simple. Do not be blinded by the name, but do not be afraid of greatness either. Protect the culture first. Protect the team's spirit first. Then, if the deal makes sense, strike with confidence. So maybe this is not just a trade rumor. Maybe this is the moment where New York decides what kind of champion it wants to become. A team that enjoyed one magical season, or a team brave enough to chase something that lasts. If you believe Durant should join the Knicks, comment 1. If you think the Knicks should protect their championship roster, comment 2. Like this video, share it with another NBA fan, and subscribe to the channel for more stories from the league where one decision can change everything.